Hi guys, welcome to Bake with Chefs by Apka Malaysia. I'm Chef Tan. Today I'm going to show you how to make caramel bonbon. Now I will demo how to do the shablon, because for the praline and ganache, for dipping, if we want to transfer easier, we need to have a chocolate base. So we call it as shablon. So to do this technique, I will need to prepare an acrylic tray, or you can use any kind of flat tray. Then afterwards, I have a guitar sheet. So I will spray thin layers of oil. To stick nicely with the guitar sheet. Use a scraper to make sure it's flat. Remove all the air. So for this case, we'll have a very flat surface for me to pour the chocolate. Over here, I have a dark chocolate. Keep the temperature around 32 degrees, but we don't need to temper it, because if you temper it right, it's going to crystallize faster. It's easier as we have a slightly longer time to do the shablon. So I will take just a little bit of chocolate. Pour on the surface. I will follow according to the shape or size of the frame to make the shablon. So slowly push. We need the very thin layers, as thin as possible. Alright. Then before it's totally crystallized, put the frame on top so it can stick nicely. So after we did the shablon, now I'm going to leave it to crystallize. After that, when we do the filling, we can pour on top of it. As you can see, right, when we do a shablon, right, the chocolate, we don't really need to temper, just keep it around 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. Then after that, when we coat on top of the tray, because if it's very thick, when we want to cut the bonbon, they will have a difficulty to cut it, and when we eat it, the texture won't be very nice. For making a caramel ganache, we need cream, butter, milk chocolate, sugar, sea salt, dark chocolate, and glucose. To make the caramel bonbon, right, we will need to start with the ganache. So first thing, I'm going to put together the milk and dark chocolate. Then the other side, I'm going to start a caramel and warm the cream inside the microwave, because if the cream is not warm, it's very difficult when we want to deglaze with the caramel. So I'm going to put it inside the microwave. Then on the other side, while waiting for the cream, I'm going to do the caramel. To do a dry caramel, just add the sugar part by part. So now the sugar starts to melt. I'm going to stir it nicely. When you see the sugar is fully melted, I'm going to mix the next part. This way we can control the temperature of the sugar. So when it starts to caramelize, right, it doesn't go too fast, because we don't want to burn the caramel. I would like to have a caramel around a brown stage, but we don't want to go darker than that, because I don't want to have a bitter taste in my mouth. So it's important we add the sugar part by part. Then while we're cooking, make sure we control the heat. If you see at the moment when you cook, right, there's a lot of steam coming out. So means the heat is going to be very high. Reduce the heat so the sugar can melt slowly and caramelize more evenly. So when the sugar starts to caramel, check the colors of it. Just take out a little bit. So we can see from here, because if we are doing a recipe which is slightly thicker inside the pot, it's very difficult to judge the color with the caramel. So to judge it properly, you can take it out and see the color. Right now it's still a little bit blonde. I'm going to go for a little bit more. But I reduce the heat so it can go caramelize slowly. So right now, the colors of caramel turns to brown. I'm going to add in the warm cream slowly. Just add a small part first. Then stir slowly. Be careful, as when we add in the cream, right, they have a lot of steam coming up. So we try to not burn our hand. Pour bit by bit to make sure there's no lumps of the sugar setting. And make sure when we do this step, right, before we pour in the cream, make sure the temperature is at the low heat. So the caramel is not going to set while we pour in the cream, but also it's not going to continue to caramelize it. After mixing all the cream with the caramel, I'm going to bring the heat to medium heat and boil the mixture again. Once it's boiled, we can stop cooking. So right now, the mixture is boiling. I'll off the heat and remove from heat. And after, I'm going to mix in sea salt and glucose. Mix nicely with the caramel. After mix well the glucose and sea salt into the caramel sauce. So now I'm gonna pour into the chocolate mixture. So pour enough to cover all the chocolates. With the amount of liquid over here, I'm going to divide to 2 or 3 times. Then after that, we are going to add the soft butter. Make sure when we pour the liquid into the chocolate, don't pour everything at once, because we don't want the mixture throughout the mixing process, right? We don't want the temperature to go more than 38 degrees Celsius. Always maintain below 38 degrees Celsius. As this case, right, we keep the nice crystal molecule inside the mixture. So now I will start to stir. As we can see now, the chocolate is not fully melted yet. So at this case, I'm sure the temperature is still below 38 degrees Celsius. Then I'm gonna add in the second part of the liquid. Then mix well again. Let it slowly melt the chocolate. After mix well, the second part of cream, if you see there's still lumps of chocolate, right, that means the temperature is still low. I'm going to scrape the remaining of a caramel sauce inside. But if you see, when you pour the second part of the caramel sauce into a chocolate, if you see a chocolate is fully melted already, for the third part of the caramel sauce, right, we will need to let it cool down to below 38 degrees that we are going to mix into a chocolate. The whole process, the idea is to make sure the temperature of the ganache not higher than 38 degrees Celsius. So I will mix nicely the last part of the liquid. So normally for the caramel ganache, after you mix, right, you will see the surface is a little bit like splitting. Don't worry, because the ratio of the chocolate is very high. So in this case, right, they will start to split. But by using a blender, we're going to emulsify everything. Before doing the blending, I'm going to mix in the soft butter. Mix it well also. Since we see the mixture is a little bit thicker, so I will blend it inside the bowl. Mixing nicely. So you will see in the beginning, the mixture is a little bit rough, but after blending, it will go smooth slowly. So after mix well, you can see the ganache is going to be more thicker or elastic. It's not as liquid as beginning, and it's smooth and shiny at the surface. Now I'm going to remove the blender. Scrape the side of the bowl nicely. Mix a little bit with a spatula to make sure there's no lumps stick on the side. So I will check the temperature. So you can see after we mix well, the temperature is around 30 to 32 degrees. Now I'm going to pour inside the frame that I done the shablon earlier. Over here I have a frame already shablon. So now I'm going to pour the caramel ganache on top. Pour it full for the frame. Then use a palette knife from the center, slowly goes down and push to the other side. If you see we have extra inside the frame, take out bit by bit like this case. A little bit. Scrape it smooth, so the excess one you clean up. Then go higher slowly. Excess we clean. Then now I'm gonna go the other side to the top part. The excess I'm gonna scrape it off. Then the last part from top until the end. So like this case, right, we have a nice and clean surface of the caramel ganache. Then clean the edges. Now I'm going to keep the caramel ganache in the AC room between 18 to 25 degrees Celsius for minimum 24 hours. Then tomorrow, I'm going to cut it with guitar cutter, then dip inside the chocolate. After keeping the caramel ganache overnight, now it starts to set. As you can see, when I touch it, it's not sticky. And now I'm going to start to unmold it with a knife. Cut out the side. Then slowly remove the frame. Now I'm gonna apply chocolate on top to make the shablon. Over here, I have the dark chocolate, and I'm gonna do the shablon on top of the ganache. Make sure the temperature is between 32 to 35 degrees Celsius, and make sure it's not tempered. If we temper it, it's going to set very fast on top of the ganache. When we want to cut right, it's going to crystallize and they have a crack on top. So apply a thin layers of chocolate on top. Then with a palette knife, slowly spread it to the side. Then to the other angle. The excess one, we clean it up. Make sure the layer is thin. So when we eat the bonbon, right, we can have a lot of filling. We don't have a thick crust of the chocolate. After spread the chocolates, lift up the guitar sheet a little bit, then remove. Remove it from the guitar sheet. Like this way, we can put the scraper easily. Slowly push down, then arrange a little bit. Make sure we don't have much wastage. Then cut. Remove the excess on the side. Then again, slowly lift up the bonbon from the side. Clean the string again. Then place back the ganache again. Then slowly, I'm going to cut it. So clean the side, remove the excess. Then again, slowly lift up bonbon again. Use a scraper, take it out and put it on the tray. Just slowly take it out. So as you can see, the chocolate on top that we just shablon, it start to set, but it gives us enough time to work for the both steps to make sure it doesn't crystallize totally, or else right, when we cut, it's going to have a crack on the surface. So now I'm going to keep the ganache in the AC room for around 2 hours to make sure the ganache start to get slightly firmer. Then I will separate it. After keeping the caramel ganache around 2 hours in the room, now we can start to separate it. Just slowly take out and break it. Because we have a shablon on top, so it's easier for me to handle it. Just hold on the shablon chocolate and slowly arrange. With 2 layers of shablon, we have a thin top and bottom layers of the chocolate. In the middle, the caramel ganache start to set nicely. As if we are temper the ganache nicely, so it will crystallize fast. Now I'm going to keep the caramel ganache after separated in the AC room for around 1 to 2 hours to make sure the side of the ganache start to get slightly dry. I will start to do the dipping inside the tempered chocolate. After keeping the separate caramel ganache for around 2 hours, so the surface now sets already and it start to get a little bit dry, easier to handle. Over here I have a tempered dark chocolate. Make sure check the temperature nicely. Then I prepare a dipping fork and a palette knife. So put straight, press it down a little bit. Then take the chocolate, cross on top of it. So we have a thin layers of chocolate. Tap and shake off the excess chocolate. Then tap again on the side. Like this one, we can remove the excess chocolate on top. After, just clean nicely with a palette knife and slowly put down. To put down, slowly take out a dipping fork. When it goes almost the end, cross down. So we follow the shape of the caramel ganache. If it's square, we need to go straight. On the middle, use the dipping fork, make a line, slowly pull out. So we have a nice line, and I'm gonna put a little bit of sea salt at the center. After dipping the caramel bonbon, now I'm gonna keep it in the AC room between 18 to 25 degrees Celsius for minimum 24 hours to let the dark chocolate crystallize properly. After that, we can take it out from the seal pads and start to do the plating. After keeping the caramel bonbon 24 hours in the AC room, now the dark chocolate coating already set. I'm going to unmold it from a seal pad and start to arrange on the plate. So guys, this is our caramel bonbon. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. See you again.